Hey, it's Aaron from GameEnthus.com, and today I'm taking a look at a game called Doomlings. Doomlings is published by Mccoy Meyer from 2 to 6 players, plays in about 20 to 45 minutes, intended for ages 10 and up. Doomlings is a hand management endgame bonus game where players are going to be different Doomlings trying to dominate over the other Doomlings until the inevitable world is destroyed. Like, boom. Yeah. Doomlings is designed by Eric McCoy, Justus Meyer, Andrew Meyer, Chris Svehla, with art also by Justus Meyer. Doomlings. Let me stop talking and show. Although when I show, I will still be talking. Let me show you how it works. Let me also reiterate, this is a prototype, so art, text, all types of things are not necessarily indicative of the finished product. This is a 2-player setup where each player is going to have a gene pool. A gene pool basically is your hand size. So by default, all players start off with a gene pool of 5. And you have a nice healthy stack of trait cards. This prototype has 162. I believe the final game is intended to have more. And cards you always start off with is the Birth of Life card. Affects what happens during a round, essentially is based on the ages. Ages mixed with catastrophes. So in Doomlings, players are trying to build out their cards, sort of a Sushi Go style kind of thing, where cards really play off each other very well. You're trying to build out your setup so that you have the most points at the end of the game. So what players would do is you would take the ages cards, and ages is a different thing. Like this says the Age of Reason, draw 3 cards, keep 1, discard the other 2. This one says Natural Harmony, preview the next age before you take your turn. Glacial Drift. You may only play traits with a face value of 3 or lower. So the ages are going to affect what you can do on that round of turns. So you shuffle that up, you deal out 3 cards, 3 sets of 3 cards, excuse me. Put those to the side, and you have catastrophe cards. So this one says Super Volcano. -1 to the gene pool, which means you would lose one of your cards right then before you take your turn. Because what happens is you flip over one of these cards and it's either an age card or a catastrophe card, and you just do what it says. Yeah. So basically you're going to add, you would shuffle these up. Oh, this one says the 4 horsemen. Discard 1 gene pool. Discard 1 trait from your trait pile. Excuse me, your setup is called your trait pile. Excuse me, I need to get the nomenclature correct there. So I'd shuffle those up and add 1 to each pile, put the rest to the side, and then you shuffle up each pile and just stack them on top of each other. There you go. And you always start off with the Birth of Life. Should probably shuffle these. I'll go ahead and do that now. Everybody would get 5 cards. So basically getting the 5 cards is the first card you always draw is going to be Birth of Life. So I mean, you could just put that on top and then say, hey, Birth of Life. So you draw 5 cards. And let me show you what they do. So I have Retractable Claws. You may play this if you discard 1 red trait from your pile. This is red. It looks orange, but it's red. Endurance. Whenever you discard Endurance from your trait pile, return it to your trait pile. So you put it out, get it right back. Propagation. It's just much easier than dating. It's often little, I like the writing. I think it's pretty funny. So like this says hurts every time, retractable claws, because that probably would hurt. Propagation is much easier than dating. And when cards have a little A on them, it means it's an action that you can do right then when you play it. So it says play 1 additional trait. Pretty neat. Photosynthesis. Action is draw 2 cards. If either are green, play 1 immediately, unless restricted. And then you have Camouflage. Camouflage says add 1 to your gene pool. That means at the end of your game, at the end of your turn, you always draw back up to whatever your gene pool size is. So if I'm adding 1 to my gene pool, if I played this card, I would turn this around. Now my gene pool is 6. I would draw back up to 6 cards, or up to 6 cards. So that's player 1. Player 2 has Deep Roots. Says, I've discussed the weather with my neighbor. This is now for my home forever. Deep Roots. +2 for each green dominant trait in your pile. Tiny Little Melons. Action is to steal 1 green trait from an opponent's trait pile. Interesting. Let me also mention that any cards that have the star and say the word dominant on top are dominant traits. You can only have 2 dominant traits in your trait pile. Maximum of 2. So this one is worth 7 points. It says to play, you must have 3 or more green traits in your pile. So you need 3 already to play this card worth 7 points. Also, I probably didn't mention that all the numbers in the lower left are how much they are worth. Some are worth negative points. Selfish. Mine. It says action. Swap 2 traits in play of the same color. What that means is you can swap 2 traits of the same color with any of your opponents, which is kind of nice. Free will. And it says Free Willy, of course. It says at world's end, this card becomes a color of your choice. Nice. Also worth 2 points. Oh, I also mentioned for the catastrophe cards, when the first 2 the game ends when all 3 catastrophe cards come out. Once the third one comes out, you follow all the instructions, the game ends. But for the first 2 that are drawn, you do the first action. This one says -1 for the gene pool. Do the second one. It says discard 1 card from your hand for every green trait in your pile. So you follow that. And then for the third one only, you do the world's end action. This one happens to be -1 for every green trait in your pile. So you got to be careful, because if you've been, let's say for this player, you've been building up those greens because you wanted to use heroic. So you lose 1. If you want to use heroic, it means you have at least 3 other greens. It means you have at least 4 greens total if this one is out here. So if that particular catastrophe was played at the end and was the third one, you lose 4 points. That's gonna happen. It's a whole thing. Player 1, we've already done that. Okay, so we would just start off by playing a card. So let's say I would play Propagation. And the action is to play an additional trait. I will play Retractable Claws. It's worth 5 points. So right now, theoretically, I have 6 points towards the end of the game. And, oh, sorry. It says you may only play this if you discard 1 red trait from your trait pile. So I'd have to play Endurance first. And then on a subsequent turn, I could play Retractable Claws, and then I have to get rid of Endurance. But Endurance is kind of cool because whenever you discard Endurance from your trait pile, it returns to your trait pile. So Endurance really wouldn't go anywhere. And that's what I mean by the cards play off each other very well. That'd be my turn, and I would draw back up to 5 because my gene pool is 5. And I got Big Ears, Impatience, draw 3 cards. Big Ears doesn't have any action. It's also worth 1 point. All right, this player would go Tiny Little Melons. Action, steal 1 green trait from an opponent's trait pile. So this would let me steal Propagation. Yay. And I don't take the action, I just take the card. And then I would draw back up to 5. And I added Confusion. It says you may be asking yourself, why does this trait exist? Yeah, it's also worth -2. All right, so that happened. And now we would flip over the next age or catastrophe. So this one says Alien Terraform. You may discard any dominant cards from your hand and stabilize them, and stabilize immediately. So sometimes the ages, usually the catastrophes are always worse, but sometimes the ages do things that don't really help you either. Sometimes it happens like that, everything is not going to be helpful. All right, so I guess they went first last time, so this player is going to go first. I'm going to play Deep Roots. So +2 for each dominant trait in your pile. You can only have 2 dominant traits, so that could be a kind of capped at 4 points. I forgot this one is 6. And then I would draw back up. I got Saliva. If I play Saliva, I get to go up 1 on my gene pool. And this was discard any dominant trait. Oh, it did say that, didn't it? I'm sorry. I didn't follow the age directions. I should have discarded Heroic, which I've been building towards. I have 3 green out to play it. So of course now it's gone. And I would stabilize. And then I would have taken my turn. Excuse me, I did that incorrectly. And I would have also had to discard camouflage and take this player's normal turn. So this player is done. This player is going now. I'm going to play that. So you may only play this if you discard one red trait from your trait pile. So I'm going to get rid of endurance, but endurance comes right back. And then I'm going to draw back up to 6. Let's say we did that round. I just want to show a catastrophe. So now this one is catastrophe. It says the big one. -1 for the gene pool. So player 1 is down to 5. Player 2 is now down to 4. And it says pass 1 card from your hand to each of your neighbors. So I have to give away a card. I give away Swarm. So Swarm says, it says we're here for the new phone. Haha. All right, Swarm. The value is equal to the number of Swarm traits in play, including this one. So if you play a bunch of Swarm cards, they're all worth 1 point. So you play 3, then they're worth 3. I guess that's 9 points. Value is equal to the number of Swarm traits in play, including this one. So yeah, if you get a bunch of them, maybe I shouldn't give this away, but just for the example, let's say I gave them that. They don't have any other swarms right now, and I'll obviously give confusion to them because it's worth -2. And you keep playing until you hit that last catastrophe, which would have, we'd have done all these rounds here, and then this one will come out, which is +0 to the gene pool, so nothing changes. Set all gene pools to +4 regardless of any modifiers. Oh, okay. So everybody would have 4. So you have to get rid of how many cards you have. And then World's End. -5 points to the players with the most traits in their trait pile. So you kind of get punished for having the most traits in your trait pile. As I said earlier, it kind of has that Sushi Go kind of thing where you're getting cards, playing them off each other. And as you can see, they really do play off each other very well. The Swarm, the Retractable Claws, Endurance. And there's some mean cards out there that you're stealing from other players, having to give up cards, or what you've been building towards can kind of be dashed to pieces because of the catastrophe cards. So there's all that randomness in there. So what you've been building can be destroyed because there's no givens. So you just take the cards you have, try to earn those points. So at the end, you would count up all the points you have. And, like some things trigger off each other based on what you have at the end, like the Swarm. So had I played another Swarm card, they're both worth 2 because I have 2 Swarm. So that's 4 points right there. 5, 6, 7, 8. You'd have many more cards if you went through all the different ages and catastrophes, but that's how Doomlings plays. Doomlings is a pretty small box game. I think they do want to do more cards. It's pretty simple. The cards kind of explain everything you're supposed to do, and there's a lot of them. So there's a lot of trouble to get into as you're trying to dominate whatever world this is before it inevitably it explodes, it's destroyed, however you want to put it. Doomlings, a delightful card game for the end of the world. I didn't get that tagline. So yeah, that's the full name right there. There you go. It's up on Kickstarter. The link is in the description below. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Be blessed.